Okay, so there, I think we're recording now. Yep, I see the red dot.
Yeah, I do.
And so we're going to cover the PowerShell Lab 3, the first part of it anyway. And then we'll go over some other pointers and stuff like about the final and maybe another Zoom session on Monday. Okay, so I've got 2 servers set up on my local computer, similar to what we do at the university. And the PowerShell will require the domain controller to run against for PowerShell 3. 1 and 2 could just been a local Windows 10 machine. But 3 has to do against user accounts in Active Directory. Y'all do have remote PC accounts to get into your computers. Sometimes we have slow. Yesterday, I had some issues. None of us could hardly even move the mouse around to do much. And our 11 o'clock class may have been the time of day, may have been the ISP, because everyone in the Zoom meeting was on sudden link and we are all having the same problem. So I couldn't tell if it was a sudden link issue or the university speed issue or what. But okay, so I've got, to avoid any type of speed stuff, this is on my local machine that I'm sharing out. I did create a Contoso.com. I do have server 1 and server 2. I didn't do the global catalog flexible single master operation role optimizations, but we didn't need that just for this quick PowerShell. So I've got a couple of users. I have Jane Doe, and she has no department set. That's what the question's about in PowerShell 3 is the organization tab, the department. So that's blank. John Doe, the department has something there. So that gives us 2 users that we know are, we can use as an example for the PowerShell question. You can use, probably best to use the Visual Studio Code. Set these up real quick, and I don't have that installed onto here, so I'm just going to use PowerShell ISE and make sure my script pane, you know, you got the little down arrow for your script pane. So I've got that opened. But yeah, Visual Studio Code that we set up on our server 1 in the classroom, or this PowerShell ISE, whatever runs PowerShell and gives output. They all do the basic same thing. So let me bring the question up so I can at least see it on my screen here and read it to you. So I'll just copy and put it in chat too, in case that you don't want to have so many things opened up. So we're supposed to use PowerShell and check if a user has a department set. If no department is set, then we need to change the department to marketing. Cool. So we have to use some commandlets. I'm not just going to write the code and answer it right away. I see a problem like that. The first thing I want to do is, can I see the users and can I see the department on the screen? So before I try to set and make any changes, the best to go about viewing. So earlier in the semester, we learned about get verb. You get stuff out of the system, and we used Active Directory user. This was before midterms. And so get Active Directory user, got user information. I don't know if you remember, we had to put a filter switch in there with an asterisk. If we don't, it asks on the command line to enter information for a filter. So I don't want to filter anything out. I want to get all users. So I'll just do get Active Directory user dash filter star. I'll go ahead and play. So it displays users to the screen and the 10 most common attributes of the user. Looking through the list of each user here, we don't see the department. We do see their login name, which happens to be called the SAM account name. I tried to talk about the SAM account name earlier in the semester, but that's the username. Microsoft calls it SAM account, security authentication mechanism or something like that. SAM, I knew 20 years ago what it was, the acronym was, but it's been 20 years since I remembered that. So, but I know SAM, something security, account management, probably. So the SAM account is important to know. And the question talks about the department. So I can add onto the switch, maybe doing some Googling or remembering earlier in the semester, there's a properties switch that can be added. And you can either put an asterisk to show all properties, which there's probably like 50 of them or so for the user, or you can put the extra one that we need to see, which luckily they're all named the same as the as what you see. So if I look at the user and I want to see something about department, that's what it's called, department. So the switch or the property, just the department. You have to spell things right or it doesn't work. So if I play that, I can now see that department shows up along with the SAM account name right there. You ever get the feeling that your instructor likes drawing on the screen? So those two pieces of information is what that we need. So I've gotten that far into the question. I can see them. Now I kind of want to narrow out the rest of the junk that I don't need to deal with. So I'm going to pipe this, and hopefully remember from operating systems class that pipe takes the output of one command, stores it into memory, and then you can pass that to another command. And I can use a SQL style command. Select is a SQL style command. It's actually select dash object, but select is what you type in SQL. So a lot of people go to see them abbreviate it, select, and PowerShell does take the abbreviation for that. You can select only the column headings that you want to see. So I want to see SAM account name. It's not case sensitive, but I'm going to go ahead and type it that way anyway. It looks pretty, but you could type it all lowercase, doesn't matter. And then I want to see the department. And that's the two things that we would need for this question. You always have to act upon the user account, and then what other thing are you going to act on them? So can I get that on my screen? I can. So that's the first thing of the PowerShell. Instead of trying to answer the question, can you see what it's wanting you to deal with? It'll make things a little bit easier. So I see what I need to deal with. Now I need to, the first part, check to see if a user has a department set. Well, I can look at it and tell if a department's set or not, but this needs to be a script, not human interaction. So we need to have PowerShell actually check. So I'm going to store this information into a variable so that I can feed it into a loop and check every user account that's returned by this command, and have PowerShell look in the department field and determine is there something there or not. So you create a variable with the $sign and a name. one thing about variable names, it can't be something that's already in the system. Like I can't use $tokens or $true, any of the stuff that's already in the system. It's a pre-coded variable. I can't use one of those names. So it's got to be something that's not a defined one already. So $users or users, not should make it plural, because we're getting all the users, not just one, all the users out of the system. So I store that information. Now I can pass this on to a loop. And I don't know if y'all remember the for each. Yeah, for each. It opens up with parentheses and then a curly bracket. Leave a blank line and put a closing curly bracket. So that's how a for each statement looks. The code between the curly brackets will run for every item that is seen in the list. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 users. So in my case, it runs 6 times. You're remoted into your school computer, you'll probably have like 120 something, because we imported those 100 users plus all the test users we created. I don't know the exact number, but you loop through every single one of them. The parentheses, like you're going grocery shopping, you have a list, you go to a grocery store, you look at the first thing on your list, you go find it, put it in your cart. You look at the next thing on your list, go find it, put it in your cart. So that's what we need to do here. We need to look at a singular item. So I'm going to use this $item. You can use any word there as long as it's not reserved, but that's singular. It sort of makes sense. So for each item in the list, in my grocery list, which is users, then that's what that I will use. Yeah, $USR. See a lot of examples. People use item and the for each loops, and then they have the in and whatever plural. So I'm going to go with item. I could use user and users. The only thing is they're really close to each other, and just that ending S I found can be confusing when you're trying to look the code. Your brain sometimes doesn't separate the two out. So if I use a completely different name like item and users, I found it to be a little bit better. So I'm going to loop through each one, and I'm going to tab over so I know that everything I write here is going to be part of the loop. And we got to check if a user has a department set. So a check in the language, especially if it's just like, we only got a yes or no check. We don't have to check for multiple things. In that case, an if statement is really great for checking for a single condition. Like it's either going to be yes or no should be the answer, true and false out of an if. So I'm going to write out an if statement. It uses the same little parentheses. It has an opening curly bracket. I'm going to hit enter a couple of times. It has a closing curly bracket. And that's what happens if things are true. If things are false, we have an else with an opening curly bracket and a closing curly bracket. I like to get my brackets and parentheses and everything all in place before I write anything. And I like these blank lines so I know where to start writing my other code in. So if, what am I looking for? Looking for if the department is set. So if there's something there. My best thing to probably check, I'm actually going to look to see if nothing is there. So I have to use item dot And I can either use SAM account name or department. Since the question is about department, I'll put the department. And then I want to check if that is equal to nothing. And there's special code for nothing. It's called null. Null is kind of special in the computer world because computers deal with high voltage, low voltage, basically power is on or power is off. And it doesn't really deal with nothing at all. It considers that as a power off condition. So that's like a zero. It's really hard for a computer to recognize nothing. So you've actually got a special string of bits that represents nothing, because you can't compare something that doesn't even exist to something else. There's no way in a computer's logic brain to figure that out. So you actually have to have some type of code to compare two different things. So if it comes up with nothing, it's able to represent that with a certain string of zeros and ones, and then compare that with the special $ null, which is a special string of zeros and ones. And if those equal, then hey, there's nothing there. But there's actually something there because it's actually a code. It's kind of weird. Don't think about it too hard. Philosophy will hurt your brain. So if item.department is null, that's when I want to do something. I want to set, but before that, I want to make sure this works. So instead of actually writing the code to fix the user and set marketing, I want to make sure that I'm doing right. So I'm going to use write host. This is just a little coding trick to test stuff out. I'm going to write host. I'm going to write out the item.sam account name. And I'm going to make the foreground color yellow, because if this is true, if the department is nothing, then it's going to execute the stuff in the first curly brackets. So those people, I want to put them in yellow because I need to work on those. If there's something in department, it won't be equal to null. It'll come down here after this else statement. So if I do a write host and print out the item SAM account name, and I make the foreground color green. So if I play this will let me to visually see just some basic printout to the screen in colors and let me know if, do I have my if statement correct or not? Because if I start writing code to set stuff, it might accidentally delete all the users in Active Directory. That would not be good, or do something in the wrong spot. So I'm just going to print the screen. See what I did up here? I viewed stuff to screen. I'm doing a lot of looking first before I try anything. So when I hit play, I have the users in yellow. That before I had no department set, and the one user in green here that had a department set. So I know yellows were the ones that I need to work on. So that's definitely where I need to write my code to make changes. And this green part, I don't need to make any changes if they already have a department set. It didn't say make changes to them, so I can just leave it there or just delete and not have anything in that spot. So a neat little coding trick. And if you misspell something, I misspelled something the other day when I was double checking the code. And I was printing stuff out. I was getting something like that. It just showed like John Doe. I'm like, where's my other people? And it took me about 10 minutes to spot that I had an extra E. My finger spelled same instead of Sam. So that's why I like to print stuff out. Do I got the right right spellings? Is it showing the contents of these variable to the screen? So now we've got the full structure here that we need to answer the question. We got the first part, use PowerShell to check if a user has a department set. Well, that's the if statement, that's done. The last part is probably one of the easiest part. If there's no department set, then we want to change it to marketing. So I'm going to delete that right host there. I don't need to just look at stuff. I want to actually fix it. So here's where I fix the code. So how do I change a user? We'll get Active Directory user displayed information, set Active Directory user changes information. And if you do some Googling and reading on Active Directory, set Active Directory user, you know you have to identify, that's required, -identity. It's required that you identify who that you're going to be making changes to. This command works on one user at a time. Another reason why we had to put it in a loop and pull one user at a time out. So the identity is going to be item.sam account name. That's the username. And what do I want to change? I want to change the department. And there's a switch for department. Makes it quite easy. So /department, what do I want to change it to? If you're ever dealing with text, passing text to a coding language, quotation marks are normally required, either double quotes or single quotes. You'd have to read up on the different languages. PowerShell requires double quotation marks to mark text that needs to be read by the command. So I have marketing. So for each user, or for each item in users, I'm going to go through and test, is there a department? If it's blank, I'm going to set the department to marketing. That's what this line here does. And it identifies what user by the username. Otherwise, it's going to print out to the screen in green color. Like I said, this chunk right here could actually be deleted. It's not really needed anymore. That was just my initial visualization to make sure I was getting the right things worked on. So I'll click play. And all I see is John Doe now. If I was to hit play again, it should print them all green because it should have set them. So I should have 6 usernames and all green when I play a second time. And they're all green. So if I go in and to Active Directory, I'll look at Jane Doe, organization tab, there is marketing set. If I go look at John Doe, he already had a department. So it left it alone. That's where that if statement came in. You only wanted to make a change if it was blank. So if there's something there, you wanted to leave it alone. And that did work. Also note other built-in users got marketing set too. So anybody that was blank was set. So hopefully that's some good little tips and stuff. If you're working still on PowerShell 2, I think most of this class turned in PowerShell 2, but PowerShell 2 had something really similar to this if statement. I also had a video on that posted under week 13, I believe it was, that showed this very similar style if statement designed that you could use for the ping Several people had, I think there have 3 different answers. The one that I showed off kind of in the YouTube video, a couple other used a WMI object for pinging, and then some just pulled out some text strings, which was kind of cool. I'd seen at least 3 different style answers to PowerShell 2. That's the thing with coding. There's always a different way to code out a problem. So pretty cool. I'm not going to do part 2. I'm going to let you all suffer through that. We'll do another Zoom probably on Monday. Unless something major changes. That's my schedule, is to do a Zoom meeting on Monday and cover number 2. So you have to update your code, add an extra if statement. Basically what you're wanting to do, if I click play right now, it reads all the users in, it goes through this loop 6 different times and checks them all. In your case at school, it does the same thing, but you have over 100 accounts, so it loops through 100 and something times. What I want to do is before that, you want to put an if condition, and you want to skip this whole for each statement if there's no users to set. So I'll let y'all think about that and struggle through, see if you can find a solution to that number 2 part. Like they say, you can't go to, well, I don't know who says, but it's like working out. You can't go watch somebody work out at the gym and get bulked up. You actually have to go work out yourself. The same thing with coding. You can't just watch somebody else type it out and do it. You've got to be set free and try to work on it at your own. And you can't ever start out lifting 300 pounds. You have to build up to that and practice for a long time. The same thing with coding. Some people have natural talent and it clicks really fast, like a little light bulb, but most people it can be quite difficult and may take years, continuous little tidbit work and practice before it finally clicks and go, oh, hey, this isn't too bad after all. So not too bad to actually feel completely lost. Normally you can feel pretty well like, oh, this is easy and I understand it, until the person explaining it stops explaining it and you get your problem on your own and have to tackle it. And that's always where it seems like the scary part is. But that's normal. So don't feel bad about feeling lost. But you do have to try different techniques and practice and try. Alrighty, let's look at other stuff here. Let's look at the web page. So yeah, we were right here, week 14. So prep for presentation. So next Friday, I think this is due. Yeah, next Friday. Anyway, the end date for all of the assignments is May 6th, even for stuff being turned in late. That's the day before finals. So everything has to be done in on the 6th. That way I can get all that graded, and then I'll only have to worry about getting the finals graded, because they have not extended our requirement of getting the grades into the system. It's pretty short after finals end. It's like a day or a half a day. We have to have all the grades in. So presentation. You're going to create either a PowerPoint or a screen recording. If you can get Screencast-O-Matic to work and create a YouTube video, that'd be great. If you don't have mics or that capability, then creating a PowerPoint with screenshot pictures and stuff explaining what your code is doing in bullets could also be done. So, but if you can, try to do a screen recording, upload to YouTube. You don't care about video of your face or anything, just the PowerPoint slides and stuff like that. So choose one problem below to solve. Well, what is the problem? It's basically only one problem. Create some type of unique PowerShell script and demonstrate. Like talk about how did you use a loop or an if or a switch or anything else that you put into your PowerShell. I had one student create a Dungeons and Dragons game. They use a bunch of switch and ifs. You'd enter a room and have like 4 or 5 different choices. You type something out and either go to a different room, kill a monster, or be killed. It was quite extensive and way more than what needed to be for a short presentation. But it was great for them to run through and practice all of that. So yeah, it doesn't have to be anything huge and long. So only like a 2 to 10 minute worth of presentation stuff. Let's see, what else do we have? The final. So the skills final in this class is Friday, May 8th is when that's actually scheduled, although we're not going to be at school. So in some people's work, some people have been pulled in as essential workers and have extended work hours and stuff, stocking shelves and things. So we have to do this remotely. And it'd be great if we could all remote in at 1 o'clock and do the skills final from 1 to 250, but that's not really totally feasible. Possibility of internet issues. Like I said yesterday, we had some really slowness with remote PC during one of my classes. So what I'm going to do for the skills final, I'm going to change this where you can actually submit done like you did for your test out chapters 1 through 7, where you just click on the assignment and type done when you've completed it. And the skills final, I'll put the instructions in place of this paper copy. So in place of this text that's highlighted, I'm going to put the instructions for the skills final on it. And it'll be available May 7th at 8 o'clock. That's when finals start. Even though ours starts at 1, the first final that the university offers is some class May 7th at 8. So I'm going to open that up and have that ready for Thursday, May 7th. And the final skills will close down at 12 o'clock on May 11th, which is the following Monday. Yes, so everything has to be completed, preferably by 3 o'clock on Friday for this class, but it will be extended out for any type of technical issues. So, but May 11th at 12 p.m. will be the last time that the skills final will be available to take and submit. So try as early as possible to get it done. That way, if you do have issues, you can start reaching out for any type of help, technical help and stuff to try to get it completed on time. So anybody got questions about the final? And it will cover Active Directory Lab 2, where we created user accounts and groups and organizational units and map network drives and created shares. And that will be what is covered on the skills final. And you'll, like I said, use remote PC completed at work. When you do done, I'll remote in and grade, just like I did the Active Directory to the practice final. And hopefully everybody's been keeping up. Yeah, I've posted the PowerShell 2 tip under week 13. I think I emailed you the link to the PowerShell 1. Week 12 had how to build a menu with PowerShell. The answer to Active Directory Lab 2, or if you haven't watched that, or if you didn't get a perfect 100 on your Lab 2, even if you did, you probably want to watch that YouTube video. And hopefully everybody's done with their test out, and that should have been done well before you even got quarantined away from the university. And try to make sure everybody gets Active Directory Lab 2 all the way through the presentation, get all that done and turned in. And I think I got most stuff from this class turned in. This has been a pretty good class about turning stuff in, but I think Michael's still working on one of his PowerShells past due, but yeah, I had one student, not this class, and I was like, oh, it's too late, I can't turn it in. Why? You're not making the rules. So let's see. All righty, I guess now it is question and answer time. So anybody have any questions? I see Michael unmuted himself, but I don't hear him.
I don't think I do have any questions. I don't know.
Hopefully the YouTube is going to be where everybody can read what's on the screen.
Yeah, hopefully.
Because that first one was horrible, but I think the checkbox I changed. I think it'll record this a little bit clearer. One thing about watching YouTube videos, especially things with text, always make sure your quality is set to the highest quality. Is sometimes YouTube has been defaulting to lower resolutions. They've been asked to lower the resolution and not play HD by default. So I have been clicking on a few YouTubes and had to change the resolution if it had text on it to high resolution. So default to 480 instead of 720 or 1080p.
That's probably because of like Wi-Fi and stuff.
Yep. The higher everybody work from home worldwide. So I'm going to pause recording so I don't see any other major questions, and then I'll pause recording so anything to ask from this point won't be on YouTube.